It's D-U-E-U tell. I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.
Welcome to Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts. Twitter at FBall Game Plan. Instagram is all one word, Football Game Plan. And I'm also on YouTube at youtube.com/Football Game Plan. We have a lot to get into in this episode as we're in week number 16, which is fascinating to see because right now, playoff races are heating up. The NFC has a log jam of teams that are still in the hunt, fighting for, let's say, the last 2 spots in the playoffs. Really, the last 1 spot, the 7th seed teams are still fighting for. We know the AFC also has a log jam for that 7th spot. We're going to see teams constantly change in and out from being in the playoffs to also being out of the playoffs based off how they do this weekend. So a lot to get into and a lot to dive right into, and we'll start on Thursday night where it's one of those games where you have playoff implications on the line between the San Francisco 49ers and the Tennessee Titans. The Titans, to me, are right now, they're the number 3 or 4 seed in the AFC, the 3 seed, I believe, but they're holding on by a thin margin in that AFC South because right now you have the hard-charging Colts riding right beneath them, nipping at their heels, hoping for them to slip up. On the other side of the coin, you have the San Francisco 49ers who are right now sitting at the 6th seed or 5 seed. I think it's the 6th seed. So they are still trying to get in atop of the AFC or the NFC West by chasing the Rams and also chasing the Arizona Cardinals. Right now, the Rams are above them in the playoff standings. The Cardinals are on the division side of things, the winning division side of things. So they're in one of the top 2 seeds. But San Francisco is in the midst of a surprising year at 8-6. They're winning a lot of games, but behind them, they have an assortment of teams trying to vie for that 5th spot or 6th spot. That's where they are, because Minnesota right now is at Minnesota is at number 7. So now that we set the playoff picture, so to speak, these 2 teams find themselves in a must-win game to keep those other teams at bay, and that's why this is fascinating. Injury update for San Francisco. They'll be without Elijah Mitchell once again for this ball game. Short week, doesn't make sense to put him out there. So you do have the benefit of having depth in the backfield. We know about JaMycal Hasty, but we also know about Jeff Wilson Jr., who has thrived in this system. And quiet is kept when you look at their offense more completely. You're getting great play from Jimmy Garoppolo, who's playing efficient football. He's pushing the football to many different targets. Guys have been able to catch the football after the catch and make things happen. You're also seeing great play from Deebo Samuel, who has turned into a dual threat playmaker. You see this guy routinely getting handoffs like a tailback and making things happen. He had a nice touchdown run last weekend, which got him into the end zone. So you love what you're seeing offensively. They're playing really well. Bosa is playing well on defense. You look at what else is going on. Their front seven is playing solid ball. Their secondary still is a bit of a question mark, but they're making plays on the back end. They're peaking at the right time, and they face a Titans team that is coming off probably one of their worst losses. I don't want to say franchise history because we all remember the Music City Miracle, but man, that has to rank up there the way they lost that game last weekend against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You talk about a team that fumbled the football, lost the football on 3 straight possessions in 10 plays. They lost the football 3 times, and it was a big reason why they lost and got stuffed on 4th down, about 1.5 yards away from the first down marker. So this is a situation where Tennessee has to come into this ball game against a streaking 49er team and not allow 1 loss to become 2. That's their biggest challenge. Quiet is kept. Even without Derrick Henry, I feel like their run game has been productive. They've been able to stay on pace. They've been able to keep the chains moving. They were running the football solidly, in my opinion, against Pittsburgh. And I think they're going to have to come with that same level of aggressiveness up front against this very good defensive front 7 of San Francisco. But then you have to look at the quarterbacks. And I think that's where this game will come down to quarterback play. And right now, if we're being completely honest, Ryan Tannehill is not playing better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Ryan Tannehill still doesn't have the pocket presence to evade the rush or get himself out of a jam or avoid those untimely hits. And that's a big issue for me. At least we know Jimmy Garoppolo has very good pocket mobility. He's going to evade some hits. He's going to get rid of the football and is going to allow his receivers an opportunity to make something happen after the catch. And I think because of that aspect, all things being equal, I like San Francisco in this ball game, which will once again, like I said, put the Tennessee Titans in a situation where now they're running neck and neck with the Indianapolis Colts. And if they lose that spot, that top of the AFC South to the Indianapolis Colts, that could be an issue because now you see what the teams look like behind, the guys that are outside of the playoffs that are in the hunt. We may see a situation where the Titans go from AFC South champions to out of the playoffs completely. But I do like San Francisco in this ball game on Thursday night tonight to get the win. Christmas Day, we have two games. Cleveland traveling to Green Bay to take on the Packers. We'll tackle that game first before we get into the other game. But Green Bay is coming in playing some really good football. Cleveland is coming off of a tough loss, considering they were without their starting quarterback, their second string quarterback, and their head coach and some other guys on defense in terms of the COVID-19 protocols. And hopefully they're able to get some of those guys back because that loss against the Raiders, they had that game won. You have to tip your cap and give credit to Nick Mullins, who stepped in on short notice and played really well. They were able to still be productive running the football with Nick Chubb, and they found offense enough to where they had a lead late in that game. So I don't think all is lost for Cleveland, but this is a step up in weight class. They're facing a team in Green Bay that had their hands full with the scrappy Baltimore bunch. So both teams coming in off of unique games, but for Cleveland, it's about who's going to be out there healthy. Will they have enough to really compete down in, down out against Green Bay? Will they have enough to go toe-to-toe if they have to go into a shootout? Can they rely a lot on Nick Chubb to try to shrink this ball game and limit some of those possessions from Aaron Rodgers and company? And defensively, can they match up and replicate the game they played against the Raiders, albeit they're stepping up in competition? That's going to be the biggest challenge. Green Bay has to be a lot better on third down. They were getting worked down the field by Tyler Huntley and the efficient passing game. They couldn't cover Mark Andrews. They have to be a lot better because Cleveland does have good tight end play. We know this offense thrives off play action, running the football and taking those timely shots deep down the field. They won't have to worry about that in this game, in this matchup. But when you look at the defense, I think their defense is, Cleveland's defense is a lot better right now than Baltimore's defense in terms of getting to the quarterback and getting pressure. And so we'll see the offensive front and that offense challenge a little bit defensively, but I just don't know offensively the Browns have enough to really run with the Packers. Even though the Baltimore Ravens had their issues with injuries and things like that, I still think the Packers will have enough here to keep the Browns at bay. So I like Green Bay to get the win. Indianapolis, we talked about. A team, you have AFC South versus NFC West. This is another matchup. The Indianapolis Colts taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Pivotal game here, man, because the Colts are going this way. The Cardinals are kind of swimming in place right now, and teams are passing them up. They don't want to get too out of hand to where the Rams jump them, and now they're fighting for their playoff lives. They need a win in the worst way possible. They lost, got really handled by the Detroit Lions. So we'll get to the Cardinals in a second, but the Colts here, great win against New England and really was able to set the tone early and often with their run game with Jonathan Taylor. He did a great job in bailing out that offense because Carson Wentz didn't play well at all against the Patriots. Defensively, they frustrated Mac Jones. They were able to get the run game under control, and they really put the Patriots in a bind consistently throughout the ball game. I think that's going to have to be the key here against Arizona. We know Arizona wants to spread the field and force you to cover a wide array of areas. So we'll see how that works out in this one. For the Cardinals, you got to find a win. You can't toy around with teams in ball games and expect to come out on the other side of it unscathed and victorious. They have to come in and set the tone early. The good part is they're facing a quarterback that tends to be a little bit turnover prone, but you could have said that last week against Jared Goff. He played one of his better games of the season. So I worry a lot about Arizona. This is another situation where you let one loss become two, but I don't think that'll happen here. I like them to take care of business and knock out the Colts, rallying up, stopping the run, and making sure they force Carson Wentz to make plays consistently in the passing game. This secondary, just like the Patriots, don't miss opportunities to turn the ball over. And I feel like this offensive Arizona will find a way to get it going and make sure the Colts don't try to fight their way back into the ball game and upset them. So I like the Cardinals to take care of business in a must-win game for them at home against Indianapolis. We'll take a quick commercial break and be back with more Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show here on the Game Plus Network. Welcome to Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, here with you on Game Plus Network. Lovely network, does a great job in promoting the Football Game Plan brand. That's why we bring you guys the NFL All 32 show. We love it here on Game Plus, so be sure to keep following, subscribe. Follow those guys on Twitter at Game Plus Network and so on and so forth. But let's jump right back into week number 16 on the NFL schedule. And we have a good one between Detroit and Atlanta. Detroit has been feisty and competitive all season long. And it's just fun to see this team try to fight their way out of the bottom, fight their way out of the rut. And they face a team in Atlanta that can go either way. You know, the Falcons, to me, are one of these teams that you love to say, we don't know which one will show up this week. At times, they look like they've gotten it together offensively and they can make things happen. Defensively, they're young. They can turn the ball over. You get excited about it, but you still come away every week not knowing which Falcon team you just watched or which one will show up. But you do know Detroit will be feisty on defense. They'll find some offense. You know, they've been banged up in the backfield, but Craig Reynolds has done a great job in filling in for both Jamar Jefferson and DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. And Reynolds has gotten his opportunity and he's made the most of it, which has really helped this offense out a lot. And on defense, you have Ruarier has stepped up big. The cornerback, Amari Ruarier out of Penn State, did a great job last week picking off the passes, but also has done a great job this season. Nice sophomore year for the outstanding corner. So with their defense being what it is and has been improving and feisty and competitive, I do like the Lions to get the win on the road against Atlanta. Detroit is I would say a more competitive team than their record indicates, which is a good thing, but they definitely will get the win here. And there's no more moral victories. They got to start winning some more games. I think they do a good job down there in Atlanta and get the job done. Baltimore travels to Cincinnati in a huge game in the AFC North. Right now, the Bengals are number one in the AFC North. Baltimore is on the outside looking in of the playoff picture because of their loss to Green Bay. But this is a game which is more important than their game last week against Green Bay. If they win this game, they go from out of the playoffs to the 4 seed because they'll be back in first place and right there in the mix in the playoffs. So that's why this is a huge game. We saw Tyler Huntley become a household name last weekend, and this is just building on something he has done all throughout his career so far with the Ravens. We saw him get in the playoff game last year against Buffalo, play really well. We've seen him play well in the preseason, this past preseason. We've seen him also play well in that Browns game. In that Bears game, he got the start and got the win with a crucial throw late in that ball game to get him in position to score. And we saw him score what looked to be the game-tying touchdown against the Green Bay Packers last week on a great drive. So we know he can play if Lamar Jackson can't go. I'm more intrigued by their defense and what their defense can do against Cincinnati. That's going to be the biggest key. You have to worry about the run game with Joe Mixon out there, and you have to worry about the passing game with those options at wide receiver, tight end C.J. Uzomah. And the Ravens right now are struggling to match up because of so many players being injured. So it'll be about affecting the pocket against Joe Burrow. Can that defensive line find a way to get pressure? Do they blitz? How often do they blitz? Can the Bengals force them in a situation where they're going to spread out that depth chart, go 3 or 4 wide and force those guys to make plays one-on-one in space consistently? That's a huge ask in my opinion. They've already beaten this team once, So they already have the confidence that they can go in there and get that W again against this team. So you know what? I think at the end of the day, the Ravens see the writing on the wall. They understand what's at stake. We're going to see an inspired Ravens football team. I think they get the win here on the road against Cincinnati. The Bengals won't sweep them. So we'll look for the Ravens to jump back into first place in AFC North and pushing the Bengals in the other side of the bracket, perhaps in the 6th seed or the 7th seed. But that's how crazy it's been this season in the AFC North. The Rams travel to Minnesota in another huge game. All of these games are going to start meaning something the last couple of weeks. And this is another big one here because you have two teams in the Rams coming off a good win and the Vikings coming off a huge win against Chicago. And their defense playing really well, forcing turnovers, getting stops inside the red zone. The Rams are coming off a huge win against Seattle. Definitely one that they needed to get to keep the Seahawks at bay. Gave the Seahawks a losing season. So that's going to be something that they can hang their hats on. And now they have to really get a win. This is a playoff game, essentially, between two teams. So the Rams, I think, have to find a way to run the football better. They weren't able to do that. They started to get it done in the second half. Matt Stafford, outside of the ugly red zone interception, kind of figured it out later on in the game. Just find Cooper Kupp and throw him the football. For the Vikings, Kirk Cousins needs a bounce-back game. We know they couldn't run the football that well against the Bears. The Bears also found their way to get pressure on him. The offensive line has some questions. Mason Cole has to do a better job, and I know that's easier said than done, but now you face someone in Aaron Donald who's going to put even more pressure on the pocket and force you to make things, make plays up front, and your offensive line really has to hold up. So we'll see if that'll be the case here, but it's going to be tough, man. This is a very fascinating matchup, strength versus strength. The wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, against Patrick Ramsey. I'm sorry, Jalen Ramsey. Patrick Ramsey was the quarterback. So we'll see how it plays out. But right now, man, I have to trust Sean McVay to go into Minnesota, get the win, and knock out the Vikings. I will take the Los Angeles Rams here to get the win. Another huge game in the AFC between Buffalo and New England. The Bills are sitting at 7-6. They're the 6th seed or 7th seed right now in the AFC playoffs. I believe the 7th seed. They need a win, man. They've been struggling mightily the last couple of weeks, and New England's coming off that ugly loss to Indianapolis. Can they get the win is going to be key. Can Mac Jones bounce back from adversity and get the win? That's going to be huge. But really, the Bills are going to be without Cole Beasley, who has COVID-19. They're not playing particularly well. Defensively, I think they still are solid enough to where they can make things difficult for Mac Jones. But their offense really has to get it together, I feel as though, from start to finish, and really take control of this ball game and try to make it a Mac Jones versus Josh Allen game. If they can do that, I think that heavily favors the Buffalo Bills. This will be a tough game. We don't know if we're going to get the healthy run game coming from the New England Patriots. Damian Harris may or may not play, but they do have Ramondre Stevenson. So Patriots just got to find a way to get going offensively and have explosives on offense. I don't think that'll happen against Buffalo. I do like the Bills here to get the job done, get the win, and keep their playoff hopes alive. One more game before you hit a break, and that's Jacksonville taking on the Jets. The Jags need to win in the worst way possible, man. They got the ugly loss last week in the rain against the Houston Texans. The Jets, another team that need a win. I think they really can come in and find some type of consistency on offense. You got Michael Carter back last week. I thought he played really well in spurts. Zach Wilson is going to be the key here, but you have the two rookie quarterbacks going back and forth. I can trust the Jets to make something happen offensively more so than the Jaguars. So I will take the Jets gangrene to knock out Jacksonville at home after Christmas and get their win here as well, even though their head coach right now is in COVID protocols, talking about Robert Saleh. But we should see the Jets get a win here at MetLife. We'll step aside one more time and be back with more Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show here on the Game Plus Network. Welcome back to Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, here on the Game Plus Network. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts. Twitter at Football Game Plan. Instagram is all one word, Football Game Plan. And on YouTube at youtube.com/Football Game Plan. Let's jump right back into some Week 16 NFL action down in Philly, coming off of a very good win on Tuesday night against Washington at home. Jalen Hurts had a huge day. They welcome in the New York Giants. If you remember, This is the game that Jalen Hurts threw the 3 interceptions in which he got hurt in, and he was gone for 23 days, got back on the field Tuesday against the Washington football team and played arguably his best game of the season. Dual threat playmaker, making things happen on both ends of offense, and had a fantastic output that got them the win with a dime throw to Greg Ward. Jalen Hurts, to me, is the franchise quarterback for Philadelphia. Always has been, in my opinion. This is a guy that plays a lot like Dak Prescott. You want to grow with him and build around him, and they are now staring at an opportunity to take that 7th seed in the NFC playoffs. They're going to need a loss from the Minnesota Vikings, and they'll have to beat the Giants, and they'll usurp and jump right into the playoffs. So if that happens, man, what a great second season for Jalen Hurts and this Eagles franchise. Offensively speaking, we know they can run the football. They should get some guys back up front along that offensive line. The passing game looks solid and stable. The balance is there. Defensively, I like what I'm seeing from the front 7. They're being much more active versus the run, and that's going to be huge in this ball game against the Giants, who may start Jake Fromm at quarterback, and I think that's a good move. I mean, we know what Mike Glennon is. There's no upside there. You want to see what you have in Jake Fromm if he can be a capable number 2 for your football team moving forward, and he showed some spite, some spark and spunk last weekend against the Cowboys when he got in the game, drove them down the field. So I hope they give him the start because I'm excited to see what he can do with this offense. And if he provides some balance, he's going to make things tough because we know this offense does have 2 good running backs in Saquon Barkley and Booker as well. And there's some options out there in the passing game. All this offense has to do is just be average. If they're average, the defense is really good, and they should help keep this one very close. But I'm going with the Eagles in this game. Jalen Hurts once again proving doubters wrong. This is someone that has been playing exceptional football since Alabama, since Oklahoma. Last year when he got an opportunity to play, he has the right temperament to play that position in that city, and has done a great job this year in leading this football team and has them now on the precipice of getting to the playoffs. So I like Philadelphia to take care of business, get their revenge, even on a short week without their head coach, Nick Sirianni, who has COVID-19, so he's in the protocol. I think we'll see this team go out and win one for the Gipper, so to speak, and knock out the Giants and get their revenge. Tampa Bay takes on Carolina. It'll be interesting to see which Bucs offense shows up because it's going to be an offense without Leonard Fournette, without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin, and we'll see how well they do. They signed Le'Veon Bell. I think he's going to be more of the pass-catching back in this offense just for the sake of him being out there. But it's the Ronald Jones show. It's the Jalen Darden show. They're going to need those young guys to step up at wide receiver to help out Tom Brady. But defensively, they are still ready to go at 100%, and I think that's going to make a difference here in this ball game. Carolina said they get Sam Darnold back. He will play some. I don't know what that does for this offense, and I don't know what Matt Rule is doing with that quarterback situation down there. He has gone through 5 quarterbacks so far in his 2 years. That's not a good thing. He has to get a handle on that situation because there's so much turmoil there offensively. I'm taking the Bucs here to win this one easily against Carolina. The Chargers take on Houston. Houston got a great win last weekend against the Jaguars. This is a bit of a tougher challenge, to put it lightly. The Chargers definitely work touchdown to check down the passing game. Justin Herbert is going to be able to find some options deep down the field. Defensively, it's going to be a challenge, but I do think they'll frustrate Davis Mills and be able to get him off the spot and win this game. I do like the Chargers to win. Seattle takes on Chicago. I just want to see improvement from Justin Fields. I want to see these guys allow him to throw the football early in the game, not when you get down. Because once you get down and you have to play up-tempo, 2-minute offense, boom, boom, boom. He's running quick. He's moving quick. They're moving the football. They're having success. Start the game like that and allow your offense then to have some type of continuity, and then allow your defense to go in there and clean stuff up. I don't think they'll do that, so that's why I just like the Seahawks to get the win here. Russell Wilson really has to start running a little bit more. I feel like he's gotten away from that, which has taken away a good element of his game, which is why he was such a dangerous player, because he'd take off, run, get those cheap first downs. He's not doing that now. That has to change. I think this is a get-right game for Seattle. They'll take care of business against Chicago, although the Bears, to me, will play inspired football in this ball game. Pittsburgh travels to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Pittsburgh is fun to watch, man, because you don't know which Steelers team will show up. I've said that all throughout this episode, but it's so true. You don't know which Steelers team is going to show up, and you hope the one that shows up is one that could, have some offense with them. That's going to be the biggest key. Not about their defense. Can they score against Kansas City's revamped defense and improved defense? If they can do that, then this is a team that definitely is primed to make a run. Right now, they're sitting at 7-6-1. They're outside the playoff picture, but they're still very much in play for the AFC North title. So this is a must-win game for them. Kansas City quiet as kept has found themselves now at number 1 in the AFC as a team to beat. Funny how this ends up playing out, as this team was 3-4 at the 7-week mark. But they've turned it around on offense. They've gotten significantly better on defense, and they'll keep that train rolling, knocking out the Pittsburgh Steelers. Denver travels to the Raiders, and Denver will start Drew Lock. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is going to be able to clear and be ready to go against the Raiders. So Drew Lock gets another opportunity to showcase for himself and for the rest of the NFL. Can he be the guy or a guy that can lead your football team? I'm rooting for him because I think this guy has talent. Just an unfortunate situation where he wasn't able to beat out Teddy Bridgewater. But you get an offense against his Raiders defense that should give you some opportunities to hit some plays deep down the field. The Raiders, football is Rasputin. They have 9 lives. They are finding ways to win. They got out of Cleveland with the win here, and I think they'll get a win against the Broncos in this one. Derek Carr, for whatever reason, he'll start playing, average to inconsistent in the middle part of the game. But when they needed him, he caught fire late and got the team down the field in field goal range, and they got the win. I think they get the win here. I like them over Denver, even though Denver seems to be the more talented team. I feel like the Raiders can get the win, a low-scoring affair against the Broncos at home. And Washington takes on Dallas. Washington's quarterback situation should be a little bit better, but this game will be about the defense, like it was the last time they met a couple of weeks ago, where the defense just took over. And we saw against Philly, they couldn't stop the run. And that has to be music to the Dallas Cowboys' ears. They should have some success running the football. I know it's about matchups. The matchups are different, but I feel like this is just a much better team than Philadelphia, which means this should be able to be a repeat performance from what we saw the last time these two teams met. I like Dallas to roll in this one against Washington and knocking them essentially out of the playoffs in the process. Miami lastly travels to New Orleans to take on the Saints. The Dolphins are on a 5-game win streak right now, a 7-game win streak. They're sitting right on the cusp of the playoffs. They have to win this game against Taysom Hill and the New Orleans Saints. If they can't get this one, then we know they are not a playoff team this year. So the sense of urgency is there for both teams. So the Saints right now are fighting for that last playoff spot. They don't have the tiebreak over Minnesota or the Philadelphia Eagles, so they need a win and essentially have to win out. So this is going to come down to, which quarterback can you trust? Obviously, you can trust Tua more than Taysom Hill, but defensively, I can trust the Saints more than I can trust the Dolphins, and I do like the Saints in the spot to get the win. So that's a wrap for this episode of Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show on the Game Plus Network. Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Thank you guys for tuning in and locking in with us each and every week, and we will see you guys in week number 17 right here, same bat time, same bat channel.
It's EUEU till I see you by this point. You're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it. Let's do it. We gon' make this thing official. You heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it. Let's do it. We gon' make this thing official. You heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.